Thank you, Prime Minister, for what was really a wonderfully wide-ranging and wonderful speech. We'll open the floor to questions. Where are the microphones? It's the one on each side. I hope I'm going to take the prerogative and ask the first question. So it was a wonderful speech. In the first half in particular, you sketch out a world in which, on the one hand, there's increasing chaos and loss of faith in the institutions that have enabled global cooperation, and on the other hand, a greater need for that cooperation. So I am curious, by the way, if you choose when you're done being Prime Minister and you do want to come be a professor here, give me a call. I am curious, how do you see then solving that problem? How do you see getting the global cooperation we need, given all the other circumstances that are undermining it?
Thank you. Through the tradition of LSE, the guest have to pour his own drink.
Wait, I poured it.
How do you see that? Now, it's a difficult question.
I think is your
is
is
on?
All right.
Okay. Then what is this for?
Now it's on.
Oh,
Now,
it's on.
Malaysia is, of course, a small player. That's why we've taken a position, first to recognize we cannot be in a state of denial. There are tensions, turbulence. We engage. We have excellent relations. ASEAN, the most peaceful in the region, the fastest growing economy. Now, together is 700 million people, a stronger economy. We engage, traditionally very much so with the West, with the United States, but now, with close proximity to China and the economic juggernaut they have turned to be, we continue to engage with them very strongly. At the same time, maintain. It's a very tough position to navigate between these two countries, but we are adamant to ensure that there is centrality in terms of policies. We are a democracy, and democracy demands democratic accountability in policies that we introduce, but the fundamentals is the economy. Larry, it is problematic, yes. There's no certainty, but my belief is that we continue to engage, and we engage aggressively, not just as a country, but as a region. And the strength of ASEAN is that, although there's minor differences, we are compact as a group. And that, therefore, I think we would be able, I'm more optimistic. I think we are able to navigate effectively. Thus far, we have been rather successful. People tend to be a bit more concerned or cautious about what is post-Trump, or when Trump assumes the presidency. But I think que sera, what will be, but what is important is to continue to engage and to focus on economic fundamentals, and I don't think we have a choice. But I am rather optimistic, because finally countries decide, yes, based on their own particular national interests, but at the same time their own survival. And now, with the globalized economy, trading, interdependence, I think finally sanity must prevail.
So over here, although I don't know where we'll do our best to get the microphone to you. Do you see over the woman in the third row?
Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to see you, Prime Minister. I'm Rowena Abdulrazak. I'm with Mercy Humanitarian UK. We're a charity based here that provides mental health support for Malaysian students. But my question is actually about the uncertainties that face the Islamic world. There's a lot of rivalries, especially between the Sunni and Shiite countries, exemplified by the Saudi-Iranian rivalry. And I was wondering how Malaysia can navigate these uncertainties and rivalries within the global ummah. Thank you.
But uncertainty is not only with the Islamic world, uncertainties in Europe, Ukraine and Russia, uncertainties with the prospects of Trump policies, and importantly, we continue to engage. Malaysia is fortunate in that sense that we engaging with all parties, and every time there are representatives from the administration, U.S. administration, for example, asking us why Russia, why Iran. I say, look, we engage. In fact, as you know, I made this very, very controversial decision when I met the then leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh. And the Western world became like berserk. Why? I said, I engage. You engage with everybody. Why can't I engage? There are points I agree, points I disagree. But the bottom line is to promote peace and strongly urge them to secure peace and to give them that support. That was after his grandchildren and son were killed in the Israeli attack. But you see, it's very important for our colleagues in the West also to understand. You have strong views against Russia, you have strong views against Hamas. Others have strong views against many other things, including the colonization and aggression of Israel. But what is, to me, critical is the need to secure and attain peace. And therefore, my role in terms of my engagement with Ismail Haniyeh then is to urge him to say, like, I represent Malaysia and many voices in the Muslim world. We are very supportive of you, but at the same time, you must secure peace. And the cessation of hostilities is critical for the survival of your children and the future of Palestinians. What is wrong with that? So, to my mind, I mean, thank you. I mean, we will continue to do this. And at the same time, listen to the voices. Even when I met Prime Minister Kia, he knows my position. And we are talking about the need for a two-state solution, and very supportive of the need to attain peace. And then with, for example, Ishiba, Prime Minister of Japan, he proposed that Malaysia, together with Japan, co-chair immediately the reconstruction fund for the reconstruction of Gaza. And it is interesting, it's Japan and Malaysia. And I said, of course we'll do that, because that is the only guarantee that peace will be attained. Because that issue, unless it is resolved, is so divisive and enrage so many people. So I think if that part is at least to a certain extent resolved, we can now focus on economic development and dealing with the issue of climate change, of poverty, of inequality, and the new technology of AI, because without having this sort of focus, we can't succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a question there, and then we'll go over there.
Picking up on the Middle East, and I'm delighted that you're so interested in this because, you know, it's an intractable problem. My name's David Abraham, from former Vice President of RISI, Royal United Services Institute. My question is to you is, can you see a time when Malaysia will be joining in the Abrahamic Accords?
We get our priorities right. And we continue to engage. If they want to discuss with us on the Abrahamic Accord, yes. But there are certain issues that need to be resolved. Number one, peace. Number two, stop colonization. Stop this continued aggression. Then we talk about what comes next. You can't talk about, for example, this is our solution, and you continue. You see, we were taught here LSE is a bastion for democracy, social justice. I mean, you have been fighting against colonization. I remember Munir's PhD thesis, from Malaysian Union to Independence. I don't know that I've read that. Yeah. I mean, this has been the bastion against colonization and colonialism. How is it you can condone in this days and age? And then talk about ultimate solution. So my point, whilst I think it should be open for engagement, but you end the colonization, end this perpetration of violence. Yes, you can insist both sides. It's not one side. But then the gross atrocities in Gaza, I mean, you see that every day. That's why in my remarks this is strong. But where is our humanity? Why this talk about human rights and democracy? With all this sophisticated learning and education about humanitarian values and democracy, and why is it we do condone this? I mean, that's my point. I think resolve that first, because that's causing so much anger to many people, seeing children and women and houses being destroyed. I grew up post Second World War, and I thought that's the end. No one should ever tolerate. Then Rwanda, that's the end. No more after this. Then Bosnia, that's the end. With all the power, technological powers that we have, what is wrong? So I think that is a deficit in terms of humanity, in terms of the sense of justice. And I think I would start at that, you know. Although people ask me, then therefore do you then condone violence from the part of Hamas? No, I don't. I make it known, and they know my position. I don't think the solution is violence, but we have to deal with it. When your house, your property, and is being plundered on a daily basis, and you preach them about no violence, it's going to be very difficult. I come from a region and countries has been colonized. You don't preach to the nationalist leaders about non-violence. Very difficult. Gandhi was an exception. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Ahmad Berhormat Dato' Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, for your inspiring lecture on Malaysia's global strategy in an uncertain era. My name is Dr. Irin Ching, a partner of Echo 8 Global Investment Group. We help countries achieve net zero faster using cutting-edge technologies. One of the many projects that we are doing, the most exciting one, is a system that clears all the rubbish and converts landfills to materials and byproducts that can be traded to boost the economy. What would be your suggestion for me to be able to bring this technology to Malaysia, to other ASEAN countries, to improve sustainability and global climate change?
Thank you. The committee minister is here, Maida is here. And you should, no, seriously, you should engage with them immediately, and we give a priority to this. But does the rubbish include some rotten politicians?
So let's
Thank
take a
you so
question
much.
from online. Danny? It's an online question.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mr. Prime Minister, this is an anonymous question. It says, you've spoken movingly about humanitarian values, yet Malaysia has not, is one of the few countries that has not ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, nor does it have any legal recognition of refugees. How can you explain this?
We have in Malaysia a total of about 2.5 million refugees. We've given adequate protection. We have 200,000 from Myanmar. Whether we recognize or not, we give maximum support where we can have. Now, the issue of covenant has its ramifications because of the concerns of not only Muslims, but Hindus, Buddhists, Christians on the issue of same-sex marriage or LGBT, which may be fine in some countries in the West, but we have difficulty to accept because that's generally rejected, because sanctity of marriage to us, at least vast majority of Malaysians are between men and women. But I take your point. Whether they are refugees or they are illegal workers, humane treatment must be accorded. That I would concede. But whether we would accede to the covenant, we may have a problem because the number of refugees and illegal workers in Malaysia have exceeded 3.5 million for a country with a population of 34 million. It's just too problematic for us, economically, socially. But what I can concede, I reiterate, there must be humane treatment regardless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Nina Adlan Disney, LSC Malaysia alumni and also MD of an educational social enterprise called LIPED from KL. But I won't ask you about an education question because it's all in the paper that we've submitted. What I would like to ask, I know you're a fan of Shakespeare and you've spoken a lot about this uncertain era. So I think Shakespeare to many represents a kind of a universal and eternal truth. So the question is, and my husband's a literature teacher back home. So the question is, if Datuk Sri Najib and his wife are Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, if Tun Mahathir is King Lear, which Shakespeare character would you be, and why?
Not counting Romeo.
Yeah, no. And Macbeth. You've ignored Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. I think we'll end at that. Not because I don't want to be personal. I'm joking because I'm no ministers here, you know. But they are in the teams, you know, which will be fine.
We've got a lot of hands up there and very few down here, but that's totally fine. Let's go to the gentleman with his, who seemed very anxious.
Thank you very much. I'm Robert Yates. I'm a visiting professor in practice here at the LSE. Honourable Prime Minister, I've seen from recent speeches that you're very concerned about rampant insurance premium hikes in the health sector and the private sector escalation of costs. I was just wondering, are you considering implementing universal health reforms, maybe in the run-up to the next election? Not only would this be a sort of a great investment in future generations, but as countries like the UK and Japan and Thailand have shown, that this is an investment in future generations that doesn't lose elections, it actually wins elections. So is this something you might consider in the run-up to the next elections?
The Ministry of Health has been entrusted with this task of making major recommendations about public health reform, which means strengthening the either national insurance of a sort, but the issue with the private sector was a bit to curtail this excessive sort of rates, and particularly in the name of health facilities. That was the controversial issue recently. And I think we are tough on that. We say, look, of course, they are private sector, they can attain profit, but there's a limit. Unless you have this super class of a sort of a specialist center of the Mayo type. But otherwise, the general private institutions must at least have some ground rules to follow and to be accountable to the charges that are made, and also the treatment and follow-up for the patients, all right? But back on Shakespeare, I forgot to mention, look, he remains to my mind not only the pillar of the Western canon, as Harold Bloom have said in his Western canon, but I think he's a genius and a great humanitarian, and it's a lot of things that we need to learn. I presented a paper to the World Shakespeare Conference, I remember, on Shakespeare from the prism of prison walls. It's interesting when you reread Shakespeare. I mean, of course, I reread Shakespeare in all my years in prison, 4.5 years, with copious notes, 4.5 times with copious notes. And it is enriching, it's enlightening, it's a very humane sort of approach to understand society and mankind, and womankind, of course. So I would strongly encourage students to, from time to time, reread Shakespeare.
Questions from here.
Thank you so much, Dato' Sri, for honoring us with your presence. My name is Imran. I'm a philosophy student here. I'm doing my master's in philosophy and public policy here at LSE. My question is, Dato', forgive me if this question is a bit personal, but as a student, very passionate about his nation, I'm quite intrigued. From your days as a student activist and now you as a Prime Minister, I was wondering what changed, whether in your beliefs, philosophical basis, motivations, and what stays same. Thank you, Dato'.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Do one change? Yes. You grow older, you mature, you seem to be more tolerant on, issues of the flaws and weaknesses of people. But there are some fundamental views that have not changed. I believe in freedom. I believe that in good governance. I understand through philosophy and history that countries can emerge great, to become great, or be destroyed, from the Khaldunian theory to Toynbee. The cycle is true, which means good governance must be central. So those things have not changed. And then that's one part. That is why I think in our Madani concept, we don't compromise. How could people think about cases, the past cases? It's different. But in the 2 years in governance, my colleagues are here. No compromise on issues of corruption, of leaders squandering wealth. It doesn't matter whether it's a coalition or not. That this was the ground in that understanding. And I think Malaysia has that potential in the past, but destroyed because of poor governance, because of greed and endemic corruption. And don't deny, one cannot deny that. Is known internationally. So I think you, on these issues, principles, you have that. And so we have to move on with it. So you say, have anything changed? Not on the issue of governance, not on the issue of corruption, not on the issue of respecting individual rights. Malaysia is a multiracial, multicultural country. Malays, Bumiputras, Muslims are the majority. We have constitutional guarantees. But this penchant of going on the race-based policies or insulting and abusive and creating hatred and suspicion and prejudice by race, to me is sickening. Yes, we are encountering that. We have big battles with the opposition. On many issues, if they can criticize me like an alumni's report on education, I don't feel in any way insulted. In fact, I immediately wrote a note to the Minister of Education, please give your personal attention and give me a report latest in 2 weeks. That was my note to her. But when you talk about, Anwar is pro-Chinese and why is it he needs to go to a Chinese restaurant and eat, it's a bloody sickening thing to do it to happen. And I think I need you, particularly the young, to understand this. Of course we have our ground rules. We pray. You see? And I don't take pork. I don't drink. Of course I drink water. but there's a tolerance. Your views. I have to respect what you believe in. Why is it so difficult? Because the penchant for populism and racism and religious bigotry. Malaysia is facing that problem. So the vast majority, particularly the young, must have that courage of conviction, tenacity of purpose, to say enough of corruption, yes, but enough racism and enough religious bigotry. What do they have to say? Everything is, there's nothing about policies. There's no major criticism of policies. My colleagues would know. In the 2 years of governance. But there's lots of criticism. We're selling the country to the Chinese have taken over, Penang is going to be Christianized tomorrow. Yeah, and blatant lies. Now, are you a Democrat? Yes. Do you allow them to say what they want? Yes. But do you then allow for such irresponsible act that could disrupt and cause mischief and even break societies apart? So I draw the line. Yes, I'll be tough. You can criticize me for all my policies. You may disagree with these policies, but you cannot use the race and religious card. And you cannot denigrate any person. So when I say, for example, in public speeches, if I want to be a Malaysian leader, the Malay child is my child, the Chinese child my child, the Indian, the Dayak or the Kadazan. You know what they do? They say, how can Anwar, a Malay Muslim, consider a Chinese child his? I mean, level of stupidity. And some of them are, I hope, no LSE graduates.
We share that hope. And I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us and for the speech and the questions. And I think I speak for everybody in saying it was really a wonderful, enlightening event. It's really a privilege for us. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has a very busy schedule, so we have to bring things to a close. What I would ask the audience to do is just to stay seated for a moment.